Tommy Allsup may not be a household name for many people, but the music he helped produce has probably been a part of your life. From the dawn of Western swing to the day the music died, Tommy Allsup's influence can still be felt today.
Tommy Allsup is one of the most unsung musical heroes, not just in Western swing, but in all of popular music.
He played the best Western swing rhythm guitar on the planet. But he did so much different things. I mean, he produced the year 2525 for Zager and Evans. I mean, he did so much stuff, played on 101 hit records on Tammy Wynette, George Jones, Charlie Rich, et cetera, et cetera.
He was a huge session guitarist. He did hundreds of sessions. He played on jazz sessions, he played on rock and roll sessions, he played on pop sessions. He could do anything.
You won't find a thing to choose. Nobody's
gonna... I was born in 31. That's when all the dust was blowing, and we had a fiddle that only had one string on it, the A string. And I got where I could play a song on that one string. That's when I started getting to like music, which was on fiddle. And then when the boys all went away, when the war broke out, I started playing for square dances 1 or 2, 3 a year with my dad. So I started learning chords on the guitar. Sometimes you get lucky and make $12, $15, and you work all day for 50 cents to $1, you know, working out in the hot sun. It didn't make sense to me. I thought the guitar feels better in my hand than a pitchfork or a shovel, you know, or a hoe. I thought, you better start practicing. That's what I did.
Music scene here was incredible. Now, a lot of people in this area were big Western swing fans.
Western swing is obviously string band music that was grown up in these parts, both Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, etc., that took the music of the day, swing music, big band, blues, etc., and married it with string band, which is fiddles, steel guitars, electric guitars, etc. You know, Western swing happens to have came from places like Kane's Ballroom and a desire for music that they could dance to and listen to.
I went to Kane's when I was 16 years old. I'd go down there and hang on the front of that bandstand and watch them bands. I saw Spade Cooley's band there, Tex Williams. Saw Bob there many times. Saw Johnny Lee many times. I was determined that I was going to play on that stage. We got a call to come out to Clovis, New Mexico to do some session work at Norman Petty Studios, and that's when I met Buddy Holly. I was out there at Petty's recording with some other people. Buddy came by and asked me to play on some records. He said, I like what I hear you've been playing on some of these records. He recorded in a couple of nights. We did some songs, and then they released one of the songs, It's So Easy, and he called me and said, that's going to be my next release, and I can't play your solo. Will you go on the road with me? And this was in July of '58, so that's when I started touring with him. So we hired Waylon and the drummer, and away we go.
That's why he went on tour with Buddy Holly and ended up as such an important figure in the whole day the music died. Initially, it was supposed to be Buddy and Tommy and Waylon Jennings were supposed to be on that flight. It was really, really cold. It was so terribly cold that the drummer for Buddy Holly, riding in the bus, he got frostbite so seriously that he had to go to the hospital. This is why Buddy Holly rented that plane, is because it was so cold he didn't want to put his guys through that anymore. Of course, the big bopper was sick. Some say it was pneumonia, some say it was the flu. And so he started working on Waylon, saying, I really, really would like to fly. He says, I'm sick, Waylon. I don't want to ride that cold bus, please. That night, they were all done. And Richie Valens was the only one left. He was in that ballroom, and he was signing autographs.
We was on our way to the airport. Went back in to check in the dressing room, make sure we had everything loaded. Buddy asked me to go ahead and check, and that's when I saw Richie, and we flipped a coin. I flipped a $50 and said, call it, Richie, and he said, heads. So I lit heads. And I said, you're going, so I'll go back out and tell Buddy.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin. Three young singers who soared to the heights of show business on the current rock and roll craze were killed today in the crash of a light plane in an Iowa snow flurry. The singers were identified as Richie Valens, 17, Buddy Holly, 22, and J.P. Richardson, known professionally as the Big Bopper. The aircraft, chartered from the Dwyer Flying Service, crashed near Mason City, ironically the setting for the prominent musical The Music Man.
Then he ended up on the West Coast not too long after that. And then that was when he started working with Snuff Garrett and Leon and all of those guys on the West Coast. He was a mentor to Leon Russell in a lot of ways when he was out there, showing him how to do production and helping him get gigs and things like that. And he produced so many Western swing albums. Worked with Sleep at the Wheel, worked with Bob Wills.
Well, Tommy's one of the guys who was is the synthesis of rock and roll. You know, the folks that were able to take the music that they were brought up with and fuse it with all the different American musics and create rock and roll.
When I was playing with Johnny Lee, that was 48, 49. I always dreamed about getting up there playing, but I never dreamed about being out there producing Bob Wills records. Buddy got killed, and I went to California and started producing Bob's records just 12, 15 years later. You know, I've really had the pleasure of producing a lot of good artists, and I played with a lot of them.
You can kind of tell when Tommy's been involved with something. Tommy had a certain style. You can, you know, it's that cliche, you know it when you hear it.
Yeah, you know, I feel good when I'm listening to the radio to these old stations, and they play some songs, and you hear something you played on. I remember that song. It's good memories.
Tommy was not anyone he was always very generous with helping others and turning the spotlight toward other people. He didn't toot his own horn. When people tend not to try and turn a spotlight on themselves, sometimes their contributions are taken for granted or not even thought about. He was a music business insider that really knew what he was doing and really enriched a lot of our popular music over several decades.